right, let's go to day 2 of 30 days with Galactics, or of Galactics. So, or however I decide to title this, since I'm making these before I title it. This is Asho. Asho, this is a quick light code version of Asho. So Asho is wolf humanoid is the way I'd call him. Canis Major, I feel is what he's giving me right now. Now he is one of the very first beings I ever met, and he was a surprise. He was a surprise because he came to me and he did not want to work with me. I had an Arcturian guide who was teaching me to go to planets, and one of the first planets my guide wanted me to go to was this one with Asho, and he was a built, muscular, but in a like not like a how do I describe this? He wasn't muscular in like a Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like just completely muscle bound way. He was much more of a lean, fit, muscular, but like you could really see the muscles, the shapes, very ripped, I guess is the word we would use to describe it. And like, you weren't going to mess with him type of energy. Now, he was a wolf humanoid, meaning he looked like a human shape, but had a wolf head. His hands were almost like they were padded. He had nails, black fur, silvery white chest, kind of. And then he had, so when I drew this, I think he was wearing like a blue vest. But when I first met him, I don't believe he had anything on. I think he was just wearing like these shorts that were kind of torn and raggedy and sort of thing, and bare feet, if I remember right. And he came to me in, I believe, meditation, and I'd have to go through my journals and look, but I believe it was meditation, if I remember right, and started looking through my memories and just being like, that's a good memory. I don't like this one. Why did you do this? Going through them. I didn't really know what was happening. I didn't really understand it at the time because I would just been introduced, and there's this like kind of aggressive, kind of this energy that's kind of like, I don't want to work with you, but I'm here because I have to be type of energy. And so finally my Arcturian guide takes me to the planet, and it has this desert on it, this beautiful yellow sand desert. There's a jungle in the distance, and I find out Asho lives in that jungle, and he kind of travels out into the desert to meet with people. And so he traveled out into the desert and met me, and he's laying or just sitting down, kind of cross-legged in the sand, talking to me, and starts telling me everything about why he doesn't like humans. And at one point, even I asked him like, well, what do you guys eat? And he kind of, in a very, it was a truthful, but he knew it could be potentially fearful way. He's kind of like, well, I eat meat just like you, type of thing. And I'm like, oh, kind of like, I don't know if I like that response. And he was joking, type of, it was kind of to put me in a space of, I don't really like you. I'm going to mess with you a little bit. And, what if we did eat humans, type of thing? But they don't. I'll be clear about that. They don't. They do eat meat, but as far as I know, they don't in that capacity. So we sat out in the desert, and I learned that part of why they don't like humans is all of my Arcturian guide started taking me and showing me this too, all of the destruction that humans have caused through the cosmos. There, a lot of the versions of us throughout time are considered like pests in a way. A lot of these beings, it's why you get a lot of these different races that just kind of like look down on them, and you get these concepts of like, well, if you get in our way, we're just going to wipe you out because we're tired of dealing with you, type of energies. And that doesn't mean they're malevolent or anything. They're just, it's kind of like how we look at ants. If you have an ant infestation, you might actually talk to the ants and love the ants and try to remove them from your home. Or you might just throw some toxins down and be like, see you later, get rid of you because you don't want to deal with them. Um, that's kind of the mentality they had around me. And so he made it very clear he was working with me because my Arcturian guides had come to him and said, hey, we have a human who is on this journey. We want you to teach him about a couple of things. One, that your kind are not malevolent, that you are um, in a space where you just don't trust humanity, and that you have things you can teach them, and this is some of the knowledge you can impart. And so I sat with him in the desert. I met with him 3 or 4 times, maybe more. It's been a really long time. I think I was meeting with him when I had like a really big galactic acceleration in 2020, and uh, it was a few times at least going down, and we would sit there and I would feel the sand. And one of the things I remember feeling in the sand was he was like, okay, look at the sand. And I'm like, there's this beautiful sand there. And he's like, look at it though. And I go, well, I don't understand. What do you mean? He's like, just look at the sand, like feel into it, look at it. What is it? It wasn't sand. It wasn't natural sand. It was like glasses and metals and other things. And he took me on this journey and started showing me, he's like, look, a great civilization was here one time, like technologically advanced buildings, all this stuff. It is now sand. It is nothing. It has been wiped from the face of the planet. He goes, this is something that happens on all the worlds. Creation and destruction are just part of the natural order of things. So people fear destruction, but it's actually part of the natural order. And it comes down to, it's like, this is where I really started realizing the way he was explaining this. The only things that truly stand the test of time are stone, giant stone. Now, here's the thing, stone is natural. The things that don't stand the test of time are the things we make. The metals rust, the plastics will turn into microplastics, and glasses erode, and all this stuff. That stuff does not last long. So he was teaching me, he's like, look, your civilization is rising, but at some point, the earth may just decide we're going to shift and we're just going to wipe it out. And he was showing me this to help me understand ancient civilizations, because I always knew they existed, and they wanted me to be like, to understand, like, we've been here a long time. And he was showing me our world and his world and other worlds and how they go through these cycles. And he would show me these images of like a little village coming up, and then water comes through and wipes out the little village. And then the next time the village comes back, but it comes back stronger, and they like learn, and they build, maybe some advanced stone techniques and stuff, and they build a bigger village. But then a volcano blows up and wipes out the village, and then the village grows back, and they grow back even stronger this time. But then the planet's like, you know what, we got to go through some more shifts, and this time, you have cities of steel and metal, and it comes back and it wipes it out. And then there's earthquakes and there's upheaval and things fall into the oceans, and it's like nothing's there. It's like nothing has ever existed before. So he gives me this history lesson essentially of our planet, his planet, and talking about how uh, nothing is permanent as much as we want to think our society is this big permanent thing that will always be there. Look at the pyramids. Look at the ancient structures. They had advanced, those of you who are waking to that remembrance know they had advanced technology. They had advanced machinery. They had advanced things. Now, granted, some of those advanced, I'm not saying like the pyramids were built with technology. We could get into a whole debate on that. I think it was sound frequency and magnetism and all this other stuff, but there were advanced things that those civilizations could use. And when you go back, like Atlantis had advanced technologies. I have memories of societies where I was driving these. Uh, the word that comes to mind is of a Vimana, if you know that word Vimana from Hindu Indian lore, because I don't have a word for it. It was a flying machine. I was driving a flying machine when one of the civilizations was wiped out. I was in the air driving it, and I remember I have that memory, like watching it happen and being safe in my little flying vehicle. There were these advanced metallurgy techniques and building techniques and all of this. Where's it at? It's gone. Why is it gone? Because a disaster came and then the elements came. The elements came water, uh, air. Air blows sand and dirt around and rock around. Wind, which is air. You could have volcanoes and plate tectonic movements, earthquakes, all this stuff. Then you get nature involved with trees and things that like grow on the sides and split stuff apart. There's some very good books out there, and I can't remember the one, but the one that I have read. Oh man, I can see the cover, but I can't see the words of the book. But there are some good books and information about how, like, if humans just disappeared, how trees and stuff would take it back in 10 years, and then within 100 years, nothing would exist because they would like split everything apart with their roots and bring dirt in and all that. So his lesson was basically about the history of civilization and saying, you haven't just been here once. Back then I was like, okay, Atlantis existed, Lemuria existed. Maybe that's one or two cycles of this evolving human civilization that we have. And then it was explained to me, no, you've been here a lot longer than that. And not only have you been here a lot longer than that, with civilizations you can't even remember, civilizations that you just don't have words for because they're not in your written history anymore. It's all been destroyed or purposefully wiped out and all this. But we had technology to actually go to the stars. We had technology to walk through portals, to use ships, to do all this stuff. That was here. We were able to do that, colonize, go other places, and the same thing happens on those worlds. Some of them rise, they fall, they rebuild, they rise. It's every world is a consciousness of its own. So that was kind of the lesson in history that he gave me. That was Asho. He's a wolf humanoid. Um, I usually call them canine humanoids. I don't think they've ever given me, I don't think any of them have ever given me like a race name. Races, remember, as we go through this journey, race labels are more human things than they are stuff for other beings. Other beings might have like locale labels, meaning they call themselves something within their village. It's kind of like a Clevelander or a New Yorker calling themselves Cleveland, New York. But I don't think they've ever given me a race name for the ones that I've been working with. So I'll have to see if I can get that at some point or more information on that. But um, again, not all beings that you meet will be the friendliest. That does not mean they are malicious. There's a lot of trust rebuilding we have to do with a lot of these beings, and that was the other lesson with him was building trust. And I built trust enough to where years he told me at the end of that, at the end of all of this, I was like, will I meet you again? And he was just like, probably not. And like very uncaring, didn't want anything to do with me, was like, I'm done, you go away type of thing. And I watched him walk off into the distance after our last meeting when I knew it was done. And I was just like, oh, okay. Hadn't heard from him for years. And then telepathically, I was working on a project to do these light code things here. And I pinged him and I was like, hey, would you be willing to? And I don't know if I pinged him or if like my guy, Arcturians, got involved and were like, hey, pay attention to him. But he came back around yesterday or maybe 2 days ago and was just kind of like, okay, I can see you now. You're trustworthy. I'm willing to, he was like, you're worthy now type of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So then we drew his code and went from there. But the whole point is they might not all like you right away. You may have to build trust with a lot of these beings. Thank you for watching. Drop comments and questions in the comments. If you are interested in spirit art readings, divine council transmissions, just talking to your guides and seeing them, visit awakenwithwillow.com. You can support me doing that work or with tips and donations. I appreciate you all. I'm grateful for each one of you, and I love you all.